like the previous sessions also covered the whole house inspection timeframes and how important the negotiation is on that, right? Because you negotiate the offer, but it's not done yet because the inspections are not done and the appraisal is not done. I always tell my clients, we can do a mini celebration once we get under contract, right? It's like, thank you, Jesus, right? However, the real celebration is after we get the repair requests and come to resolution in writing on those. Then we're golden. So don't be packing up stuff until we get through there, right? So you've gone through that, and that's really the first half of getting the deal put together, because there is a lot going on once you get under contract and you negotiate the inspections. And that's really what we're going to talk about, because we want to make sure that we get everybody to the closing table so that they can move on with their new lives, their next adventure. And ultimately, we don't get paid for a job half done. So we want to make sure that we finish up like a rock star. And so I have some things that I have written down so that you kind of have a checklist. And I do not have it separated out as to buyer and seller. I would suggest, however, that you go into PowerPoint or Command and Designs and create a flow chart so that your clients know what the next steps are. Having them know where they are and what the next steps are for a lot of people is really important, and it keeps them settled and less fearful. So let's do this. I have lots of notes and my phone is ringing. Okay, so what I would like you to do is think about a calendar system, a calendar reminder update system, because I have found that a lot of these deadlines, at one point I put them in when they're due. Okay, well, that's lovely. But I have set it up to where I have a reminder either a day or two before. So that way you don't catch anybody short. You know what's going on. You know what you have to do to get these things finished on their deadline, like a loan approval. I do talk to, if I'm a seller's agent, I do converse with the lender. Not everybody wants to do that. I feel like personally it is my job. While they're not going to share private information, and they shouldn't, I can ask a lot of questions and make sure that if there's anything that I need to do to help get this to close, that they know that I'm a resource. So let's just say loan approval is due on Friday. I have a calendar alert for 2 days before that I will send out to the buyer's agent and say, hey, just a heads up, we have loan approval due in 2 days. How are things looking? That way they have an opportunity, because who knows what their schedule is. They have an opportunity to reach out and get things taken care of, to keep their side mindful of the deadlines. And if they need to go get something, some document or whatever, they too have an opportunity to do what they need to do to meet those deadlines. So we're working together to a happy end. So some kind of a calendar alert system, whether it's Dotloop, DocuSign, you know, the tasks list, and you set it up for reminders 2 days before. Really important. Nobody wants to be caught short and have to run around like a chicken with their head cut off. So what deadlines are we talking about? Okay, so let me move to my other page. So some things with deadlines would be, I don't know, Shelley, tell me a couple of deadlines.
The 10-day window.
For the inspection period?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, keep in mind, sometimes it's not 10 days, sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 14.
Sure, your inspection window.
Right, okay. And so when we think about this, now you guys are using Kentucky contracts, I'm using Ohio contracts, or at least the Cincinnati Area Board of Realtor contracts to be specific. So there is an effective date as well. And not every agent necessarily reads the contract well. So you need to know what the effective date is, right? The inspection period on our contract starts the day after contract acceptance.
Right.
Maybe different on yours, right? So as well, our settlement period dates. Day one is after the seller's agent receives a repair request form. So when you're doing your calendar updates or your reminder lists, what I like to do is I put in the time frame for the inspection period. And then when I receive it, I mean, it says, okay, like 10-day inspection window, 3-day settlement to follow. So when I get the inspection repair request form, I can then go in and see when I need to forward my settlement period deadline, because it starts after you receive a form. It's not a stagnant timeline. There's some flux in there. I have had agents send me whole house inspection results and have not yet gotten their termite report back or their radon report back. I will tell you, somebody did that years ago. The radon was still at the house. And I had no idea if that house had radon or not, don't know. But I knew that the box was still at the house. I told my clients, and I said, I'm coming over. We signed off on the inspection repair request, period. It was done. They didn't get the radon test results for 2 days later. And unfortunately for them, it showed a higher than normal level of radon. My seller was not responsible for taking care of that. My seller was not responsible for negotiating regarding the taking of the care of that. So you do have to be mindful of what's going on. So I basically saved my client $800. So be aware, sometimes you can pull rabbits out of your hat just by being mindful. So give me another timeline. We talked about settlement, inspections and settlement. Is there another timeline?
Earnest money deposit.
Earnest money, yeah.
Thank you. Exactly. And sometimes people do not send you receipt of that. So I've seen a lot, right? So I had another agent who did not send me the receipt of that. And when I followed up, come to find out the buyer was in Bermuda and was not going to be back for like another week. I'm like, hello? You know? So again, you have to be mindful of that. And the seller's rights regarding that. The seller then has the right, if those things are not done, to tell that buyer to go away should they choose. Some of these are hard and fast deadlines, like the inspections. If you don't say anything in a timely fashion, you're buying it as is. If the buyer does not give you the intent to proceed when they're supposed to, if they don't give you loan approval when they're supposed to, it is to the seller's discretion. It's a unilateral right of the seller to decide if they want to continue with that process and that buyer or not. The buyer could walk, or the seller could walk away. Which, think why? Why would they do that? Well, they might have a backup offer. You never know. And in this market, very likely, very likely. So on the buyer side, you need to be mindful to protect the contract and the house for your client, because backup offers are out there. I actually bought the house that I live in now as a backup offer. This was in 2001. So it works. And that's another thing that to learn how to do a really good backup offer is so important. You've got to really dig deep into that. It could make you like such the rock star hero with your buyer clients or your seller clients. You'd be amazed. Okay, so other timelines. That's pretty much it as far as the hard and effective timelines and being mindful of the effective dates. So let me, okay, so what I want to do here today is talk about the basic steps, right? We've already kind of veered off into personal experience and being mindful, but the basic steps of how to get the contract to close process squared away and in some kind of a checklist form for you in a reminder system. I'd like to identify your responsibilities, whether you're representing buyers or sellers, and explore some common issues that can occur and some workable solutions. Also, leverage your resources. So one of the nice things about being a real estate agent is that you have an opportunity to get affiliates working with you or people that you trust, whether it's a whole house inspector or a title company, or maybe somebody who's a handyman, things along those lines, so that you are actually a great resource for your clients during the process and after. And reminding them of that capability later is great. They can say, hey, they'll reach out like 2 months. Hey, Tracy, we're going to redo our hardwood floors. Who do you know? You're top of mind. You want to always stay top of mind. If you're top of mind and the subject of real estate comes up, your name just naturally flows out of their mouth. And you have an opportunity then to have more buyers, more sellers, and it's a warm lead or even a hot lead as opposed to a cold lead. They've already heard that you're awesome. Now you just need to not drop the ball, right? So you're already in there. Okay. Okay, and we're going to talk about post-closing systems as well. So, somewhere along here, I have written down, so all that hard work that you've done to get to this point, now is your opportunity and actually your responsibility to be a vigilant guard of the process. It's less salesy, I guess, and more of an itemized process so that all of the steps are taken and things go smoothly because there's a lot of stuff going on for your buyers and your sellers. So you're watching out for the process. Okay, so we want to close on time. Okay, a successful deal does close on time. The process is smooth and painless for all parties involved. And as I had mentioned, you win future business because of your like most awesome customer service. So in order to make that happen, you need to know the process, understand that systems equals success, and then you get paid. Because if you don't do this part right, you don't get paid. So kind of important. So you become kind of a project manager. There's no such thing as over communication. So I'm going to ask you to start drafting a timeline, and then you're going to fill in details, and you can make it pretty later. You want to be the go-to resource. You want to be the problem solver. So let's see. I would suggest that you have a buyer agent contract to close checklist and a listing agent contract to close checklist. Some of these things will cross over because you're also guarding that the other side does their job well. Like as a seller's agent, reaching out to the lender, sending them reminders. So here's a good one for you. So talking about past experience, just recently, had a home that I went under contract sight unseen. And I was a little sketchy. I mean, it happens, but there's like a world of opportunity for disaster. So what do? Just go with the flow? No. So we created an addendum that said the buyer was going to walk through during his lunch hour the following day. I think we signed it at 8, no, it was the same day. We signed it at like 8 a.m., 8:30 in the morning. And buyer had to come through before 1 o'clock that same day and sign off on it that said he had walked through the home and he was satisfied and was going to continue on with the purchase, because I was not going to put it as pending in the computer system until I had that. So that's part of the vigilance, making sure that you cut short problems that could happen that could negatively impact your client. So we did that. Life was beautiful. The pre-approval letter was awesome. I do call lenders regarding the pre-approval letters and ask questions, because not all pre-approval letters are created equal. And some of them are really just a phone call, a pre-qual versus a pre-approval. So everything's going along smoothly, and the lender sends a communication email to everybody, because he's going to do that once a week, which is awesome. And it basically said that the home sale was contingent on him closing on his house in Kettering, Ohio. And I said, excuse me? No. The pre-approval letter says he has the funds to close and it is not contingent. Well, the buyer decided to change things up and not tell anybody. Rather than liquidate his assets, which he had chosen to sell his current residence and use the proceeds from that, which is a breach of contract. I would have not known if the lender had not communicated something to me, or if I had not already opened the dialogue with the lender. So things happen. So stay in touch with them, ask pertinent questions so that you know that things are going along smoothly. And that's part of the checklist. It doesn't have to be once a week, but it needs to be there, because things happen and people do not always disclose everything that they're doing behind the scenes. So some people do not attend their closings. You know, whether it's the buyer or the seller and there's power of attorneys involved, or agents. And I don't know what all you guys think about that, but I go to my closings. I go to my whole house inspections too. Not necessarily for the whole thing, but I attend. What are your thoughts? Do you go? Do you wonder why you should go?
I haven't had a closing yet, but I would imagine that that's the celebration point. Like I'd like to kind of be there when it closes.
Exactly. Exactly. Why would you not want to be there for the celebration?
Yeah,
Right?
I too am also new, so I've only closed one house. So of course I was there, and with the inspection, with the COVID, we were not able to be there. But the nice thing is that we did a Zoom meeting. So I was there, you know, my client was Zooming, I was Zooming, and then the inspector was Zooming. So I was I was in the process. So that was really nice. But I would love to now be able to go to an inspection so I can see that too, to also learn. But I do think it's important to be able to see it, but also to show my client that I am there for you. And, you know, that's why you're paying me. You know what I mean? I mean, even though, you know, so that's why I'm there, is to make sure I'm seeing everything and I understand everything in this operation that we're doing here.
Awesome. See, I love that. Lots of people don't go to their inspections, which is totally their call. And some people don't want to maybe they talk too much or whatever, so they don't want to disrupt the process. I have learned a lot. I mean, I was 25, 26 when I started. I did not know diddly about the operational facets of a house. So fortunately, I learned a lot. And when I got a report, for me, you know, the pictures and the text are great, but being on site, I learn a lot and I can speak intelligently about what I'm trying to negotiate regarding. And closings are a time of celebration. You've been with them side by side through this whole process. They're relying on you. Why would you not be there to celebrate? Otherwise, it's like you're just dropping them cold. Hey, thanks, send me the check. And it's an awesome time to remind them that if they are placed with your service, if they think that you want everybody you know to have the same caliber of service, I would totally welcome the vote of confidence in referring me to, neighbors, whether it's at the old house, the new house, or whatever. And let's face it, a sign in the yard or a moving truck, people are going to start talking. It's a perfect opportunity. So I see them at the closing. Some people give gifts, some people don't. Some people give gifts sometimes, etc. I will tell you, when I stopped giving gifts on a regular basis, it was weird, but I started getting them. And I'm like, oh my God, I like this, So who knows? I also like to touch base with my folks a week after the closing to see how things are going, right? So the follow-up is key. And then I also have a tickler to reach out to them 30 days after the closing. So using the wonderful command systems and the smart plans, all of the wonderful facets that we have, you can use those things to stay in touch with your people on a regular basis. I don't do a 33 touch campaign, because if somebody reached out and touched me 33 times, I'd probably shoot them, but I like to have certain events after the closing, once they're in my database, the 1 week and the 30-day phone call. I have 4 different events over the course of the year, whether it's a pumpkin giveaway or 4th of July or something for Thanksgiving. And because I cover a very large territory, not everybody gets like the 4 touches that way, face to face, but they at least get 2. I separate them into geographic areas, and one of them is Valentine's Day. I have some M&Ms that have my face on them, and they have some nice phrases and stuff like that. And I deliver them in something, creative that I come up with to make it fun for me every year. And I deliver them just before February 14th. And one young couple was like, oh, do you remember her, Lola? She's the one that brings you candy every year, and it's fun. Same thing with the pumpkins. I do not buy them expensively, but I load up my car and I drive around with a boatload of pumpkins. People talk, what are you doing with all of those pumpkins? Reaching out and touching my clients. And if you think about it, some of those time frames are when people start thinking about selling a house, like Valentine's Day is in February. Hello, right? I want to start my spring off nicely. Thanksgiving, Christmas, people are starting to think about what they're going to do for the new year. So it's timed strategically as well. So, and I can be very patriotic. So the 4th of July thing is a lot of fun. And I make something sweet and decadent, and it's got all kinds of, go USA type stuff on it, and I deliver it. Because we are all Americans and we all celebrate our country, and it's awesome. Even if it's like a little package of sprinklers for the kids, or not sprinklers, yeah, whatever they're called, those twinkle thingies.
Sparklers.
Thank you. So yeah, so that's part of the follow-up process. Seeing people face to face. Zoom calls, okay, next best thing to being there, right? But seeing people and feeling their energy, there is nothing like it. A postcard, not the same. So let us talk about what are all those things that you're talking about on a checklist that I need to do? Because, right, I don't know. So what you want to do is, let me get to my list. Okay. Now you do have the Google Drive that Amy sent out, so feel free to use that, and then there are a lot more details. So I'm going to speak through the details because I did not put it on PowerPoint because I'm not a tech whiz. I'm just a doer, right? So contract to close, and these are not separated out from, sorry, my email is popping up in my screen. These are not separated out as buyer and seller. So we're going to run through all of these, and then keep in mind, you can separate some things out, but some things are going to go back and forth to both sides. So however you create your checklist to where it makes sense to you, some people do like graphs, some people like charts, some people like just text, whatever works for how your mind works. So you talked about what tasks have deadlines and what they are. So just to run through those again, the earnest money, the whole house inspection completion, and the repair request forwarded to you, the radon, if you do radon tests, termite test or inspection. Some people have tests regarding like sewers, or if it's land, you're going to have a series of different tests, septic systems, things like that. Being mindful of the effective date as opposed to just the contract date, because they're totally different and they do have ramifications. The loan application date, the appraisal, the loan approval. I like to have my closing scheduled a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks before the actual closing date, because there's a lot of stuff to get done. And some people feel more comfortable that way, you know. So closing scheduled, you've got the final walkthrough, at least we do here. In our contract, it says that a final walkthrough is the buyer's opportunity within 48 hours prior to closing. The house should be in as good or better condition as when the offer was accepted. Now, keep in mind, I've gone up to houses and it's like the thistle that is growing in the flower beds is like up to my knees. Somebody needs to take care of it because that was not there like 30 days ago, right? Okay, the utility and insurance transferred. Lots of people tend to forget about their homeowner's insurance being transferred or canceled on their current residence. So you've got the gas and electric, you've got the water, and you've got insurance. Here, the seller has to make the phone call first before the buyer is basically allowed with the utility companies to have it transferred into their name. They need to have the current resident's authorization first. So doing that at least a week in advance is pretty nice. For things like cable, cable takes longer than a lot of the other companies. So it's nice to be able to get the cable scheduled for a transfer of some sort at least 7 days prior to the closing date. Excuse me. So let's see here. We've also got the settlement statement and its review. So the buyers, according to TRID, need to be able to review that 3 days prior to closing. That's another good reason for everybody to keep aware of when the loan approval is, so that we make sure that the buyer will have the opportunity for that 3 days, which is required by the government, because you may need to then extend a closing date via an addendum to make sure that your timelines still work out. At closing, everybody has to bring their driver's license and it has to be valid. Cannot be expired. Which, I mean, has happened. That's why, you know, I think to even mention it. If there are house keys that have been given to neighbors that may be for like dog watching or house sitting or other family members, it would be nice to be able to get a hold of those as well. So bring all of the keys to the house to the closing table. Maybe leave one or two or whatever in the kitchen, garage door openers, garage door key code. And for those that have smart lights or things along those lines, knowing who the company is that actually has the system working and how to get it working. I have a client that bought a house. She doesn't know how to turn her lights on and off on this system. She can't get it working. So the smart technology just brings a new facet of what we should take care of. You need to remember to get the key, the lockbox, and the sign out of the house. So the final walkthrough date is also important because you have to schedule your time to be able to go and get those things, but the other agent has to be able to access the house. Some people go the day of closing to get their sign, their lockbox, etc. Every situation is different. Just don't forget them. I've seen a lot of people not go get their yard signs and they're sitting along the side of somebody's house or they're sitting out with the trash. Those are kind of expensive. So one of the other things, home warranty. So depending on how you have negotiated it, at closing, it would be nice if the buyers had the full brochure of the home warranty that you guys put in place. You have to make sure, obviously, that it's on a settlement statement, that it's for the right dollar amount. And you need to make sure that you or somebody at the title company has the check and is forwarding that to the appropriate person. So let's see. One thing that I thought was super important that I didn't know until it was right in front of me, like, again, 30 years ago. So the settlement statement used to be called a HUD. Some old farts still call it a HUD because it's easier, or the CD, whatever you want to call it. You need to know how to read it before you go over it with your clients. So speak with somebody, whether it's your productivity coach or an experienced agent at the office, because the tax proration is typically the biggest question. And because your area has different ways of doing the tax prorations than ours does, I know Columbus has a different way of doing things than what we do in Cincinnati. You need to take a look at the ALTA and discuss how the tax prorations work so that you're real aware of it, because your clients will ask. So some lenders, when there's a payoff, they will, it's on the seller side. So let's say that one particular lender offers a payoff and they do not pony up the money for the escrow account. What happens is the payoff is sent with enough money to cover a couple of days between closing and when it arrives. And once those numbers are calculated to where they're accurate, the lender will then, within 30 days, send the balance of the escrow funds back to the seller. So it feels like they're paying property taxes twice, and they kind of are, because they've put them into an escrow account. They're not being credited. I don't know how to stop that. They're not being credited at the closing table. Other lenders will go ahead and rebate it off the payoff. So you need to know what that particular lender is doing. Most title companies won't give you a copy of the payoff. Well, you can ask for it. you can ask for it before closing, you know, and then let your sellers know that if the lender has not given them credit for those escrow funds for the property taxes, that they will receive a check back within 30 days from their escrow company once they know that the county taxes are paid in full. Why do they do that? Because if there's not enough money there, then there's a lien on the property that shouldn't be there for unpaid dollar amount of taxes. So our taxes here are, we call it 60 days or 6 months in arrears, but the reality is it's 6 months in arrears, but the billing doesn't happen for 6 months and as far as the dollar amounts, and you don't get the bill for 6 months after. So it's basically a year. What I have done, what I've told my folks is 9 times out of 10, it averages out to where you're going to be paying 9 months worth of property taxes. And that's what I use when I do the seller's net sheet, right? So the closing statement, obviously, they're going to do it much more accurately, but you find you're not off that much. So I roll with that. Those are all the steps that I do. I don't know. You guys have any questions regarding like a checklist? And these were not in order. They were stream of consciousness when I wrote them all down. What are your questions? You've got to have questions because I can't talk for another hour. Does anybody have any questions? Random questions. I don't care.
I don't have any questions, but it's probably because I have to process it.
Okay.
What's the tightest contract to close you've ever gone through, Tracy?
Tightest as far as like time frame?
Yeah.
10 days, cash deal.
Ah,
Did you say 10 days?
Yeah. But I've also had one lender pick up the ball from another lender and be able to close it. And I think it was 3 weeks, might have been a little bit less than that. Yeah. The key is like prepping your people ahead of time, you know, like these are the things that you need. You're on the buyer side. Give me 2 months worth of bank statements. Well, don't give them to me, but pull them, right? 2 months worth of bank statements. I need 2 years of your tax returns, a list of your debts, like what the balance is, what your monthly payment is, and what are your assets. Lots of times lenders will say, you know, you can fill out an application online, etc. I've been doing this a while, and I remember how I felt when I was given a form before I could even see a house to fill out all of this stuff. And I was, math is not my thing. So I will tell you, I stepped back and we didn't look for a little while. I'm like, oh my God, way too much math for me and very intimidating. So what I tell folks is grab those things, stick it in a manila envelope and just give it to your lender. They can input the numbers. That's their job. Don't need to freak out. Just, and as new ones come in, whether it's online or like bank statements online, print it out, stick it in the envelope. It takes some of the pressure away from people who may be prone to pressure regarding that kind of thing. Just stick it in an envelope. You know, if you can't scan it or if you can't drop it off to them, I'll pick them up. It's not a big deal, you know, or with the iPhone, I mean, you can just use an app there and send it to somebody. It's pretty easy, you know. So yeah, cash deals are a beautiful thing. Cash can be contingent on an appraisal or not. So, and appraisers are kind of backed up right now, so you have to kind of be aware of that too.
so Tracy, what system do you use to keep track of dates and documents? Is it in command?
Well, the appropriate question, the appropriate answer would be through command. However, that is not what I do. So once I get a contract, I look at the contract dates, I put them in my phone. So I use Outlook and Google, right? I put them in there so that I get the reminders where I am. I have not fully transitioned to command yet. So shame on me. No, I look at the contract, the dates are right there. Put them in your phone or put them in your desktop. If you don't go to the office every day, or if you don't sync your devices, okay, well then you put them in both places. Yeah. See, for me, when a closing is happening, I already know some of those things, so I don't have to have the detailed list anymore because I've been doing it for a long time. But even if I'm on the seller side and it's like, I put it in my Outlook, actually on my office computer, and it says, due to have the closing scheduled for whatever the property is or the client name, whichever I'm going to remember, so that I can reach out to somebody and say, hey, you going to schedule this? Because we got to keep things moving, right? So yeah. Command does a lot of great things for you. I do what I do, and if it ain't broke, I'm not going to fix it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next. Would it be helpful if I go ahead and put in, other than a talking format, like a PowerPoint or a Word document or something regarding all of these things that okay.
Yeah,
And I'll put that in an orderly fashion.
that would be awesome. I'm having a bit of a hard time understanding you. It's kind of muffled,
Well,
but that's me.
well, I don't know. I don't know if everybody else is having the same problem. I am in a room in my house. I got this handy dandy little webcam just for this Zoom meeting that I think I'm like loving it. See?
I can hear you okay. You're clear for me.
Thank you. Okay, so I will definitely go ahead and I will take all of these and I'll put them in a PowerPoint. If you want to be able on the chat screen, type in your email addresses so that I can forward them to Amy. Amy can forward them all to you, because I'm assuming you guys are not all in the same office, or are you? Are you guys all in Louisville?
No, I'm Seven Hills.
Well, hello there.
Hi.
It will be easy for me to get it to you. So.
Oh, good. Well, I was with Seven Hills about 8 months ago, and I just came back.
And where did you go?
Remax.
You and I'll have to talk.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to be back.
Good, good. So anybody else? I understand it's Ignite, so things are a little bit newer still for you guys. Do you have something that you've heard about that you want to have questions answered? Just anything. I mean, 30 years, I've seen a lot, and if I don't have an answer, I'll be more than glad to get you an answer, because that's kind of what we do here. So just shoot.
What would you say is the biggest difference between Remax and Keller Williams?
Well, let me preface that by saying I was a Remax agent for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And then briefly, well, the short version of the story is Remax they are very individual agents, which is a good thing. There is no wealth of sharing. There's just so much difference. The sharing at Keller Williams it's who we are, and it's not just random thoughts. Again, like family reunion. It is very detailed learning of what somebody else has done successfully through failing forward, and having the wholeness of heart to just share that information in its finalized form, so the next person can just pick it up and run with it at a high level. They do not do that at Remax. They just don't.
Well, that's what I was really suffering with, because I'm a fairly new agent, and I was talked into, well, my decision to go over to Remax Preferred because things at Seven Hills were not very good. But it's just, I'm too alone. You know, agents don't go into the office. There's really no meetings. They tried to do some training, but nobody came. So what Keller has done now is what I need to be successful. I need interaction.
Well, and for more to Howie's question, Remax originally, now what it is now, I can't speak to as clearly. Remax was built on agents who, their average years of experience of their agents were 13 years.
Wow.
So it was for experienced agents that didn't need like weekly office meetings where everybody goes to lunch, you know, because that's what the traditional brokerages did. So that's what Remax was. It was not for teaching new agents. And I know that they have brought some things on board in their system to assist with that. That's kind of like playing catch up. They didn't start doing that until Keller Williams really became what it has become on more of a national type level. So they're playing catch up to what we already are. I will say that as well at Keller Williams, your company dollar and your KWRI, they are what they are. Nobody doesn't pay that. They do things a little differently at Remax.
Well, I'll tell you what, I just sold a $400,000 house, and when I got my commission check, it's like, wow, where did this money go? What's this fee for? So that seals the deal.
It's a different animal. And I briefly left. I was at Keller Williams Pinnacle Group in Mason, Ohio. Had been there since 2015. So for 3 months, I went over to Remax for a management opportunity. And I personally found that I can't sell this. You know, I was going to help recruit and build a brokerage. I can't sell this. And then I also, I guess kind of unfortunately, I got a broader knowledge of how Remax Corporate was working the system with their brokers. And, you know, when you come from a place with very high transparency, very high integrity, and then you go into a different world and perhaps just get a different perspective and more knowledge of the workings of that, it just doesn't sit as well. So I came back. I find that I switched from Pinnacle to Seven Hills just recently because our team leader is a flippin' rock star. And that's what I need. right? 30 years in
Yeah.
the business, it's like, okay, I know how to do the business, but I need to stay motivated. I need to stay moving forward, because if you're not moving forward, like if you're not growing, right, you're dying.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't want to die, and I don't want to be left behind. And Keller Williams is actually so state of the art, even though like some of the command things are clunky here and there. They're so state of the art, and so much has changed in the past 5 years that I got too comfortable not doing it. And I'm like, I'm doing myself a disservice. I want to go where the action is,
Right. Yeah.
and that's where I am.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I've been a traditional
Me too.
client. I've been at Remax. This is home. So yeah.
Well, we'll have to go for coffee or something.
Awesome. I do coffee a lot.
What's your cell phone?
513-324-2267.
And Tracy, I have a question for you.
Absolutely.
I had to take a couple calls, so I stepped away a couple times during the presentation, which I enjoyed very much, by the way. You talked about writing an exceptional backup offer.
Mhm.
I might have missed it, and if I did, I'll just go back, pardon me, and watch the recording. Did you elaborate on the exceptional backup offer?
No, I did not, but
Okay.
I'd be glad.
Okay.
So I know that our Board of Realtors relatively recently changed what they had as their approved backup offer addendum. The first one was so full of legalese that I found that listing agents, one, they already had a concept about backup offers, like, I'm done working on this one, we're not going to need to do another one, but they didn't understand it, so they revised it. Between the time that they had one and revised it, I went to a title attorney and I said, this is what I need, because this is not understandable to a real estate layman relative to legal forms. I don't want to rewrite it because I'm not an attorney and I do not play one on TV. So this is what I need. Can you do something here for me? So this is basically what it is, right? You've got buyer A and buyer B, right? So you've got the primary offer and you've got the backup offer. And part of the confusion for some people was that it was too hard to keep track of who was A and who was B, and you know, so the clarity on that. So this backup offer on this property is contingent upon the written release of the primary offer, AKA buyer A. I have found for myself, when I got my house, I had the time frame for the backup offer timed for a very specific set of time frames. So I asked the listing agent when the time frame for the inspection period was, and how long was the settlement period. My offer was good through that total period of time, so that I, as a buyer, also in writing, if prior to getting receipt of the termination of the primary offer, if I found something else that I wanted to purchase, I could unilaterally send a release or termination of the backup offer. So I was good. I had my hand on the house that I wanted, but if I found something else, I was free to do that. And really, that's pretty much it. I mean, if you can find out what the price is, go for it, right? It's like the backup offer, if it's the same price as the primary offer, what is your leverage? You have no leverage unless they act like horses patoots during the whole house inspection period. But you have a whole house inspection period too. So you're probably going to have to put some money in the kitty to make it worth the seller's while. When I bought this house, the listing agent and the buyer said, we got this report. Some of the things that these people were asking for were kind of stupid. So they offered, or I asked, whichever, it was 15 some odd years ago. It's like, show me what they were asking for, and I'll be glad to let you know whether or not these are things that I would ask for as well. Keeping in mind that I'm going to do my whole house inspection myself because I don't know this guy and I trust my guy. So they felt comfortable and I signed off on it. I was not going to ask for a handrail down the front of my house. You haven't seen the front of my house. A handrail would have been like so hideous, and a variety of other things. So based on what I had shared with them, they terminated the primary offer during the inspection and settlement periods. My offer, they already had my offer. They knew that they had a backup. It was this much money, and they did not have to have their sold pending sign go down and come back up and embarrass themselves with all of the neighbors. So, you know, ask the right questions, make it super stupid, easy to read for co-ops and for sellers, and leverage yourself, but keep your options open. It's for this period of time. I had one sweetheart lady write a backup offer relatively recently. And unfortunately, her buyer was basically bound to be a backup offer until the day of closing. They never got the house. And the buyer was trapped for basically 40 days. And so I'm working for the seller. You know, I said, I tell you what, when this is all over and done with, we'll get together and I'll show you how to write a good backup offer. And so that's what I'm sharing with you. It's not just another contract, but backup offer. You've got to cover yourself and your buyer, especially in this market. If something else comes on the market and they want to jump on it, but they have this backup offer out there, send the listing agent for the backup offer a note or a text, email, and then follow up with it in writing in an appropriate form. We're rescinding this. See you later. Go write an offer on the other house. It can be done simultaneously. Anything else for me? Come on, Shelly. Throw it at me. You're
No,
muted.
that's it. That's it, I think. So
Okay,
I don't know.
cool. Taylor,
So-
you have anything for me?
So what's that backup offer called? If they find another house?
You mean to be able to rescind the backup offer?
If they've made the offer
Mhm.
and they're out driving around and they see this house that just came on the market and they,
Then you get them into that other house, lickety split. If they want to write an offer, right? You pick up the phone or you text. You're rescinding the offer to purchase as a backup offer on XYZ house. Write the offer on the other one, right? Go into command or whatever you want to do, put it in writing, just a regular addendum so that you have it in writing as well. Have the buyer sign off it. I'm rescinding and terminating the backup offer to buy XYZ house. Boom. But you can give them notice by email or text, but the best practice is to follow up with something in writing that is signed by your buyer.
so that, do they have to have a specific reason to rescind?
No. I mean, depending on how, you wrote the offer, but no. I found another house If some, I mean, the listing agent can ask you, but if you've given them notice, who cares?
Hmm, That's
Mine,
good to know.
keep in mind, there's another thought. If they want to write on the other house, which may very well be in multiple offers, you write the other offer without making that phone call yet to the first listing agent. So the second listing agent, right? You're sending them an offer, and you can choose to make it contingent on the release of the buyer's backup offer on XYZ house. And if you're in multiple offers and they question that, send them the terminology of that backup addendum so that they know that it's a matter of your client just saying, we're done, so that they're comfortable with it. You know, you really cannot over communicate. So yeah, you may want to get the other house before you tell the first one to go away.
Yeah.
Close so that your client's not buying two houses. So yeah, that would be on an addendum or in the contingency section of the CABR contract to purchase. It's just, you know, contingent upon release from prior accepted backup offer on XYZ house, see attached. And then you can attach the backup offer addendum so that the listing agent has clarity to know. And you can put in there contingent upon that being done within 2 hours of this offer's acceptance. You know, something like that. So I'm going to be tasked with putting my contract to close list in a written format so that you have a little bit more clarity. And I will make sure that you guys get, I will send it to Amy, who organized this for us, and then she'll make sure she gets it out to all of you. If you don't have any other questions, it's 10:42 here, so you can wrap up or you feel free to ask me anything you'd like. Taylor, you got anything for me? And tell me, where are you and how long have you been in the business?
I've actually only been in the business for about a month and a half, I would say. Yeah. So this is only my second day actually in the office also. So I'm at Keller Williams, Louisville East.
Awesome.
I was thinking when you said that you've been in the business for 30 years, I think that's the longest that I've heard, like speaking to someone personally. So that's a long time. Congratulations. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's very rewarding. I learn new things all the time. You know, it's good. It's never boring.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I look forward to about this career, is never being boring. Yeah, always different, always moving. So
good. Well, congratulations.
hey,
what an unusual time to get your license, right? In the middle of COVID.
that's what I've heard, but I feel like it's the most opportune time in the weirdest way. So yeah.
It is. It's like trial by fire kind of, but me come out of there like, so when I first started, it was the Persian Gulf War. Not an awesome time.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I'm like, well, you know, if it was easy, everybody would do it. So
Exactly.
and really, if you start learning in a market that's relatively easy, do you really learn all of the skills at the time when you're most receptive to learning them? Probably not, you know? So it is kind of a blessing in disguise. You're learning all of this stuff so that you're going to be here for the long haul, right?
Yeah.
Because you're learning all the good stuff now.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to when things go back to normal, whenever that would be, how the market would be and how it would be for me also, because I've already been through something that I need to like figure out different tactics. Like you said, I'm learning certain tactics that I can use when maybe the times aren't so stressful for people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you get busier and busier with Zooming becoming more of a norm. I mean, you can cut down on your drive time by doing listing presentations via Zoom.
We were just talking about that yesterday. Me and my teammates were. So yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And another one of the reasons why I am with Keller Williams, because no man is left behind. We're all getting there, and we're all going to be really well positioned.
Hmm.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thanks. Where in Ohio are you? You said.
Cincinnati.
Oh, in Cincinnati. Okay. I went to school in Portsmouth, Ohio for college at Shawnee State University. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Well, if you know anybody up here, feel free to send them our way. Referral fees are always given, you know.
Yeah, I actually know a few people in Cincinnati for sure. I have friends there. So
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great place to raise kids if that's what you want to do. It's a nice community to live in, just in general, you know, the suburbs or the city. Yeah. Yeah, it's home. Well, if you guys don't have anything else for me other than my task to do like a PowerPoint or a Word doc for this list, I think we'll wrap it up.
Thank you.
thank you.
You're very welcome. You guys have a great day and go out and sell something.
Yeah.